Mark Kelly. Look at that face. Old bug guy. Here's a Truth Social post by Trump about Mark Kelly. There are laws that impact our nation. Read Title 18, Section 2387. Whoever, with the intent to interfere, impair, influence the loyalty, morale, or discipline of the military and naval forces is to be fined or imprisoned up to 10 years. That's not what happened with the Sedition Six? Is that not precisely what they were intending to do? Influence the loyalty, morale, or discipline of the military? Question every order, everybody. Nick Searcy, the actor. I meant to mention this with Kurt. I'm sure Kurt knows Nick. Hegseth. Let's see what he has to say here.
This guy is so unqualified for the job. I mean, think about this. He runs around on a stage talking about lethality and warrior ethos.
We don't want that in our military. Mark Kelly is objecting to the Secretary of War talking about lethality and warrior ethos.
And killing people.
The purpose of the military is not to kill people and break things?
We have the most competent, capable military this planet has ever seen.
What do you imagine their purpose is? If it's not to have a warrior ethos and the ability to kill people?
By far.
And lethality. We give them missiles and fighter jets and tanks and rifles and grenades and mortars and artillery, nuclear weapons, strategic bombers, ICBMs, nuclear submarines, but it's not about lethality, warrior ethos, or killing people?
That's not the message that needs to come from the Secretary of Defense.
What message is supposed to come from the Secretary of War? You can't fight in here. This is the war room.
The message should be about what's our mission and accountability.
What's the mission of the military? Isn't the core mission of the military the ability to kill people and break things?
And the rule of law.
He looks like
training.
a thumb.
And let me make sure you're equipped to do really hard jobs. Let me give you all the tools you need to do something that often is an impossible mission. And instead, he runs around on a stage like he's a 12-year-old playing Army.
Nick Sorter says, LMAO, laugh my ass off. Mark Kelly, one of the Sedition Six, is now on the verge of tears over Hegseth's meme. Hegseth posted this meme of this comic book here. Franklin the Turtle targets narco-terrorists, and he's blowing them up with, looks like some kind of RPG type of weapon. He doesn't like it. Mark Kelly doesn't like it.
He's putting out on the internet turtles with rocket-propelled grenades. Have you seen this? This is the Secretary of Defense. This is not a serious person. He should have been fired after Signalgate.
He's out of control. Buzz Patterson, who used to carry the nuclear football in the White House for President Clinton, says Mark Kelly's out of control. Trump broke him. I think Trump did break him. I think that's an accurate assessment. Mike Davis writes, there's no question the Secretary of War must court-martial Senator Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly is subversive and dangerous. He seems unhinged. Unhinged. Looks like he might be talking here about unlawful orders. Let's see what he has to say.
Sort of flimsy legality that was being offered during these briefings. Were these sort of strikes that are now in the news what you were making reference to when you posted that video telling members of the military that they needed to feel okay disobeying orders that they felt were illegal?
Based on who this president is and who the Secretary of Defense is, and specifically things that the president has said in the past and things he was...
Unstated things. He can't answer the question. Is the blowing up of these narco-terrorist boats an unlawful order? Can't answer.
Talking about doing in the future. Let me give you an example. 2016, he's talking about something on a debate stage that was clearly illegal. And he was reminded.
So 2016 was 9 years ago. Did it happen? Did he issue that order? How can an order be unlawful if it's never issued?
By Brett Baer from Fox News that would be an illegal order. Military won't do that. You know what the president's response was to that? The military will not refuse my orders, implying that even if they are illegal, they will not refuse them. He's also talked about shooting protesters in the legs. Then he's talking about deploying more troops to American cities and using those cities as training grounds. Do you know what that means? That means using the American people for the military to train on.
What was COVID? What were the masks? What was all of that? He was fine with all of that, of course, of course. Mark Randazza, a lawyer out of Massachusetts, I'm familiar with, does a lot of First Amendment defamation type cases, says, is this the road to replacing Social Security? And he's talking about this story. Michael Dell, the billionaire, pledges $6.25 billion to seed or start millions of Trump accounts. So what is this about? The $6.25 billion gift builds on the Invest America initiative, better known as Trump accounts, created earlier this year as part of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Under the program, the government will automatically seed an account with $1,000 for each child born between 2025 and 2028. The Dell's gift, $6.25 billion, will go to the Treasury Department and will fund accounts for an additional 25 million children, 10 and under, who aren't already eligible for the government money. Dell, 60, said he's initially targeting zip codes with median household incomes below 150,000, expects to reach 80% of children in that age range. So obviously, the purpose here is, imagine if you had started saving for retirement at age 0. And so that money, that $1,000, had 60 years to grow and compound. That would be huge. That would be huge. I wonder if X can tell us what that would be worth. Let me ask it. If $1,000 were invested in the, I'll say the US stock market, what could it be expected to be worth in $2025 in 60 years' time? I think AI is useful for something. Well, it's giving me a whole range of figures. Surprisingly low, actually. I'm shocked. Assuming a 6.5% rate of return, it's saying $50,000, which I would have expected more than that. But 50,000 is a start, I suppose. I don't think that's going to solve the Social Security problem, though. Maybe it's a start. Here's another good news from the government. This is the kind of government I voted for. Department of Education wants to develop a pro-Second Amendment curriculum. How awesome would that be? And if you're not familiar with the statute, this is the statue of the Minuteman that looks over the bridge in Concord from the battles of Lexington and Concord, the Rood Bridge. It's not the original bridge, of course. They rebuild it every few years. But it's a beautiful park. I would recommend you go there if you're ever in Massachusetts. I used to have a law office just a couple miles away from there. Let's see. I did see someone say the left proposing to send American soldiers to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity or war crimes after the Democrats get back in power. It would be against the law to do that. So the law of the land in the U.S. is that if an American serviceman is put to trial in front of the International Criminal Court, the U.S. will invade the Netherlands to secure their release. The American Service Members Protection Act, known informally as the Hague Invasion Act, enacted 2002, is United States federal law described as a bill to protect U.S. military personnel and other elected and appointed officials of the U.S. government against criminal prosecution by an international criminal court to which the U.S. is not a party. The text of the act has been codified. The act gives the president power to use all means necessary and appropriate to bring about the release of any U.S. or allied personnel being detained or imprisoned by, on behalf of, or at the request of the International Criminal Court. That sounds like a good movie. Another loose news item here. Justice Ketanji, I'm not a biologist. How would I know what a woman is, Jackson? James Woods, the great actor James Woods, posted, does any rational American sincerely believe this person operates at the same level of critical thinking as her fellow justices? And he posted this a while ago, November 29th. So a few days ago. And of course, a black person responds, says, well, she graduated cum laude from Harvard Law, has received enthusiastic endorsements from all of her legal peers. So yes, she's objectively highly intelligent, even if one disagrees with her jurisprudence. These are not objective measures, my friends. These are credentials being handed out by an explicitly biased academic institution and environment. These degrees don't mean anything anymore. They don't mean anything. If anything, they are an indictment of the academic institutions handing them out. As I respond here, imagine thinking that this argument affirms the purported brilliance of Justice Ketanji, I'm not a biologist. How would I know what a woman is, Jackson? As opposed to exposing the utter rot in the credentialing of DEI candidates through our nominally most respected educational institutions. We've all read Jackson's legal writings. They are the work product of a soon-to-be failed first-year law student and unworthy of any level of judge, much less a justice on the Supreme Court.